Hello, this is On Imagination. I am starting a project that I'm going to be recording my progress and my insights through. I was going through some historical information, and I started off with exploring art and how and why art is not successfully embedded into our balance of economy, hence the term starving artist. Artists seem to be on the outside loop, and getting them on the inside has been really a struggle for them. It's as if all the laws of economy don't apply to artists. So I just recorded a video, not my best, and it was a discovery when I was recording it, where I was going through it going, what's going on with artists? And in the middle of it, I turned my eye to Ireland, and there's a reason why. After I finished with the video, I messaged my artist friend, and the video was recorded on his behalf with him in mind, because we had a conversation last night regarding the starving artists, regarding the placement that art has in our economic culture. And when I was recording the video and I landed on Ireland, I had a massive, I want to show you what they did, and it was different. And they seem to be the only culture that's embedded it into their economy. So I started to ask the question, what is art? What is its actual value and purpose? So I messaged him. The recording did not record, and I did not send it. I could not send it. But it was an 11-minute monologue where I was reflecting on everything I'd said. And while I was recording this 11-minute segment that did not record, did not send, I had a breakthrough, and I went, holy fucking shit. You know, Ireland never had a Dark Ages. They never had the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages affected all of Europe, but not Ireland. There were two epicenters in the world in the 4th century. Two. There was Alexandria, and there was Ireland. And Ireland was so renowned for its art value and its value for education that it was on par with Alexandria. Now, I know why they wanted to destroy Alexandria. It never occurred to me that they wanted to destroy Ireland, which is why they sent St. Patrick to destroy Ireland. Alexandria burned in 380 CE. It was, I believe it was about 100 years later that they decided to target Ireland. I want to say it was the 400s. It was 5th century. Yeah, it was the 400s. Yep, 385 to 461. So St. Patrick was born 5 years after Alexandria was destroyed. Let me see if I can get the idea of when he was in Ireland. Oh, we're just not going to get to this, and that's okay. But regardless, he passed away before 461 AD. The Dark Ages officially began in 500 CE, 120 years after the destruction of Alexandria. But Ireland never burned. St. Patrick protected it. The Dark Ages that we saw didn't touch Ireland. There was no Dark Ages in Ireland. The Book of the Kells, in fact, were created. The Book of the Kells was written in the 800s. The bards of Ireland, the scholars, the philosophers, flourished and were celebrated right into the 16 and 1700s. Ireland did not have a dark ages. They were exempt, which means we have at our disposal an entire culture that developed, evolved, flourished, untouched by the destruction of Alexandria. Do you know what this means? I know what this means. Mathematically, I know what this means. It means I have a point of reference. It means I have a point of comparison. It means I have a point of relativity. It means I have two data points. That's what this means. I have two data points. I have two data points. Mathematically, that's gold. I have two data points. So I have two data points, Ireland, and I have data point B, Alexandria, which means I can look, and I have, at how our culture has evolved due to the destruction of Alexandria. But now I have Ireland, which did not suffer from the destruction of Alexandria because it had its own Alexandria, because it was Alexandria. St. Patrick hid it. I really, really love St. Patrick. And I'm looking at this going, I can look and study Ireland and now compare the entire Western culture to Ireland to see how we should have developed. Had Alexandria not been destroyed. This is the best part. I own this book, so I'm really excited. Really, really excited. I bought this book, when I was 14 years old, and I have not yet read it. I'm going to read it now. It's so funny how things just work out. I'm like, oh, I need to read this. And it's like, oh, one day. I also have like 5 Celtic maps I have literally by John Haywood. I love John Haywood. John Haywood is a cartographer. He literally uses cartography to map and illustrate all of history. All of it. All of history. You want to know anything about history? John Haywood. And I have The Celtic World by John Haywood. So armed with The Celtic World by John Haywood and this gorgeous book, I'm going to sit down. I also have another book. It is called something to do with the Irish invasions, or not the Irish invasions, the Viking invasions of Ireland. And it really hones in on the Viking influence, which I've already studied that part because of my books. And I'm looking at all of this going, So I have a whole plethora of gold, but I have an agenda. And the agenda is to compare Ireland to the entire Western culture to see how we could have evolved if Alexandria had not been destroyed, because I have now a working model completely put together of what a culture looks like without the dark ages. And my brain is big. I got like sociology crammed in there. I got psychology. I've got ontology. I've got mathematical pattern recognition crammed in there. So I'm very, very excited right now. And I'm going, So I'm going to start a series where I'm literally dissecting Irish culture and comparing it to Alexandria and how these two cultures, we're going to call it the Western culture or the Holy Roman Christian Empire, and compare it to Ireland, because they lost their educational epicenter while they were painting books of gold. See what I mean? Like painting books of gold. And Dark Ages. And I'm going to watch this and I'm going to see how they evolved side by side and compare and see literally the devastation of what taking Alexandria away from our culture means. What I think it means is it reset our ethical clock back to zero. That's what I think it means. That's my hypothesis, because that's the most logical deduction that I can make of this is it reset our ethical clock back to zero. So while Alexandria had their ethical clock and then it reset back to zero in 380 CE, Ireland's didn't, which means the ethical clock of Ireland evolved and continued. I just picked up the book before I did this recording and I read one passage. And the line that I read, I hate reading things out of context. I really hate reading things out of context. The Irish had never been conquered. When the Normans took over Irish land, the Irish princes moved away, while the lesser chieftains simply drove their cattle into the woods and hills. The Normans and Irish lived side by side. The Normans cultivating the lower ground and the Irish keeping their land more than 600 feet above sea level. Especially in the rough, high country of the West, the Irish lived as they had always done, driving their cattle into the mountains for their summer pastures, setting up their simple summer camps or boolies, and living in the open air. Irish kings still dined outdoors, sitting at trestle tables with their servants. A lack of class distinction which horrified the Normans. Well, that's seventh ethical perspective. Which meant by the time the Normans invaded, the Irish were at seventh ethical perspective. You see where I'm going with this? Which means by the time the Irish suffered the genocide that they endured in the 16 and 1700s, they were ethically evolved. And they still are. I can really only track up to the 16 and 1700s. That's where the timeline becomes askew because of the genocide that occurred in the 16, 1700s. Which means we have a societal role model. It means we have a societal view of I. That is a big fucking deal. Because now we have a model to mimic. That's what that means. That is what that means. And if we have a role model and a model to mimic, then we know the path because they've already done it, because they didn't have a Dark Ages. So this is going to be the Healing Gardens look into Ireland for this particular project that I'll be reading. I'm going to be using my maps. I'm going to be drawing my connections. And then I'm going to have a series of videos where I step in and I break down, analyze, and review my findings. And I don't know. I'm very, very excited. So thank you so much. This is video 1 of the Irish series. So thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.